Hi friends, welcome to another video on Essential Life Skills with Ms.Richa. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting module on how to really work on your weaknesses. Well friends, we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. The problem really occurs when we focus more on our weaknesses, and because of which it tries to hold ourselves back. By focusing too much on our weak points, we are not really doing justice to our strong points or strength areas, and that is where a big bad problem happens, because you are focusing so much on your weaknesses that you are really not focusing on your strengths, because of which. So I'm sure we all have had this situation at some point or the other in your life wherein you have really bombed at a meeting or a presentation, and you came out of the meeting or presentation thinking, oh my god, I think I could have done better than what I did perform out there. Well, it so happens that a lot of people have so many conversations in their head, and they have so many internal criticism, and you really beat yourself at these criticism by not accepting the fact that you might be weak at certain areas, and it's absolutely all right to be weak in certain areas. For example, you might be bad at networking. Now, when you're bad at networking, you're likely to avoid certain situations and events wherein you might have to network, because of which you really hold yourself back and you become worst and worst at it. And then when you in fact have to go at a networking event, you really perform badly. The reason is because you did not really showcase your strength and rather focused on your weakness. So what I'm really trying to say, friends, out here in this video tutorial is, let's understand that weaknesses will always be there, but you should not focus so much on your weaknesses and make it such a focal point of attention that you're not doing justice to your strength because you're focusing only on your weak points. Well, friends, keep watching, because I'm going to share with you tips and tricks of how to really work on your weaknesses. Keep watching. So friends, here are 5 tips which will really help you to work on your weaknesses. My first tip to you is, in order to really work on your weakness, you need to recognize what your weaknesses are. At times we are not really sure of what are our weak points or what are our strength points. So here I would suggest, take a piece of pen and paper and write down all of those things which you feel are your weak points. Now these can be simple things like being afraid to stand up and talk in front of people, or giving a presentation in front of a group of 20 or 30 people. It can be a weak point like having not so great communication skills or not being able to speak in English in a proper manner. So whatever your weak points are, I would suggest write them down. The moment you've written them down, you know that you have to work on these weaknesses, and these also give you a little clarity on what your weak points are. So that's my first tip. In order to really work on your weakness, recognize your weaknesses. Friends, my second tip in order to really work on your weaknesses, focus on the positives. Now it so happens that our mind is tuned in such a manner that we really try to think more on the negative rather than the positive side of things. So what I would suggest over here is, try and even think of your weakness in a positive light, and that is really possible once you put your mind to it. So for example, if you are somebody who has bad communication skills, don't think of it as bad communication skills. Think of it as a way of improvement. So start seeing even your weaknesses in a positive light. By doing that, you are taking away the negative from your weakness and thinking, or rather focusing on the positive of your weakness. So try doing that. I'm sure you will really see wonders happen once you start looking at your weakness, not in a negative fashion, but in a positive manner. So that's tip number 2. In order to work on your weakness, try and focus on the positive side of your weakness. Friends, my third tip in order to really work on your weakness is build confidence. Well, I do know that whenever you think of weakness, you think of it in not such a great manner, but even your confidence may go down when you think of that weak point in your life. So what I would suggest is, try and build confidence in one way or the other. Try and build in little bit of confidence into that weak point. Just to share an example, few years back, one of my weaknesses was I used to hate networking with people. I used to be very happy working by myself with myself, but if you really want to grow in life, you need to network with people, and that's a weakness which I had. Now, what did I do about it? I tried to build confidence by going out, stepping out of my comfort zone and going for networking business meetings. When I started doing that, initially I was a little hesitant and felt very fearful of doing it. But slowly and steadily, I started building confidence into networking, or rather going at networking events. And I'm sure, friends, you can also start doing this. So pick up one weak point of yours, try and build confidence slowly and steadily. Do not think that overnight you will be a success over there. It does take time, but please be persistent and consistent and have loads of patience when you're working on your weaknesses. Friends, my fourth tool in order to really work on your weaknesses is use tools and technology. Well, we are living in an age which is so much digitalized, and our government is so much digitalized, and everything is going the e-way. So try and use technology and tools to your maximum. Download those apps and applications which will really help you get out of your weaknesses. So every day I would suggest do something which is taking you one step ahead in your weak point. Do not think that you can work on it yourself. You would need the help of technology here. Try and read up as much as you can about getting over this weakness of yours, and I'm sure, trust me, you will start getting over your weaknesses once you start focusing on your weaknesses and trying to get out of it. So that's my fourth number tip. Use tools to your advantage in case you want to get out of your weaknesses. Friends, my last and final, the fifth tip in order to really work on your weaknesses is stop trying to give too much of focus on your weaknesses. Play on your strengths. Well, I'm sure you all have heard this or read it somewhere that we need to play on our strength, and that's very essential because our strength areas are areas which make us feel good, confident about ourselves, and we are really generally good in these areas. These are our forte areas, but trying to understand that negative things or weak points is not something that we want us too much to focus on. So focus on your weaknesses, but don't overly focus on your weakness. Also play up on your strength areas, and trust me, when you do not give too much of attention on your weaknesses, it's a good thing. So don't get overly possessive or obsessed about your weak points. Play on your strength. Give a little attention to your weakness, but not over attention to your weak points. Play on your strengths, and that's my fifth and final points in terms of how to overcome your weaknesses. So friends, here are my recap of 5 tips that you need to work on in turn of wanting to work on your weaknesses. So here's the first tip. The first tip is recognize your weakness. Tip number 2 is focus on the positives. Tip number 3 is build your confidence. Tip number 4 is use tools and technology. And last but not the least, tip number 5 is stop too much focus on your weaknesses. Play on your strengths. Well, I do hope after listening to this video tutorial on how to work on your weaknesses, you will definitely take the first step in order to move on your path to success by trying to overcome your weaknesses. So please keep watching. There are more and more videos coming up here on Tutorials Point. Keep watching, keep smiling. Thank you very much.